Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Megan, so much for joining us today. Um, the United Way of Greenville County is so important, not only this time of year, but every year. What they give back to nonprofits and what they do for the community, everything from education to healthcare to leaving education, healthcare, and leaving no child behind in terms of their ability to succeed as well as families to succeed in this area. And it's so important. But thank you for reaching out this weekend. Welcome to Greer Chamber Live. So with that, Megan, if you want to just do a quick introduction, and then I will kick off with a question.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. And good to see everybody. Glad to join you this afternoon. As David mentioned, Megan Barp, I'm the president and CEO of United Way of Greenville County, and have been in this role for a little over 2 years now, and have loved being part of this incredible community of Greenville County for the past 2 years as well. And David, as you mentioned, this is sort of a moment of partnering with so many folks in the community around the COVID-19 pandemic. And as much as possible, we're just trying to get the word out in terms of the resources available and what we're doing and how we're collaborating with so many folks in the community to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind. So thanks for inviting me to be part of this today.
You're welcome. Well, thank you. One of the first things I noticed when about 3 weeks ago, our staff, we made the executive decision to move our staff to work from home, have essential workers go in, kind of open the mail, that type of thing. One of the first things we tried to do was start a program that reaches out to the community and get their input back to us, but also relevant information that we can pass on. And that's what this program is about. One of the first things I saw with the United Way of Greenville County was the 211. I remember that came out right away, and I said, okay, that's great. Is there a way that we can plug that in? So we tried to put everything we could on our website and manage it. I'm sure it's on there somewhere. But then as the weeks progressed and new information came out, what are those needs in the community? And so we started looking local to try to speak to some of our nonprofits that are part of the chamber, but just in general nonprofits, and give us their intake on what their needs are in the community. And so when you reached out, I had you were in the back of my mind because I knew what was going on in the countywide, and we're looking locally, but also the greater Greer area. So it's nice to have you on board. But the first question is really engaging in that response to COVID-19. What are some of the highlights that you've done the last few weeks?
Yeah, so the first things that we did, we got a phone call from Greenville County Schools right before they closed down, and they asked us to be their premier partner in helping navigate requests that they were getting from the community for help as well. So Greenville County Schools has been so incredible and so responsive in setting up sites all over Greenville County to make sure that kids are getting breakfast and lunch Monday through Friday. We knew that there was going to be a gap for dinner, for weekends, for adults. And so we really rallied a lot of our food partners around the table to make sure that we were filling those gaps. So that was a big sort of step one. You mentioned 211. That is another big step that we took that very first week when COVID-19 started progressing here and the schools were closed. So 211 has been around for a very long time. It's usually run out of Columbia, and that's the case right now, but we asked for permission from Columbia to start a Greenville County specific 211 to handle calls in our community. And that was important for a couple of reasons, because we know the key partners in the community, we know the resources. We wanted to make sure that we were available 24/7 in both English and Spanish to answer the questions of our community and connect them in with resources related to food, related to shelter. Utilities is a big call that we're getting right now, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, et cetera. So that's been a really important expansion around what we're providing through 211. And the data there is really interesting, and I'm happy to share that with you, David, as we keep moving, because it's very real-time data. So we know zip code, we know needs. Families can also opt in for us to follow up with them and call them to make sure that they're getting what they need. So that might be a really interesting sort of set of data to look at around the greater Greer area and what would be relevant to what you all are working on as well. So that's been a huge resource. We, of course, started the COVID-19 Community Relief Fund. We have raised more than $700,000 to date in just over 3 weeks. And that's 100% of those proceeds going back into the community where it's needed most. So we started with food first. We then quickly moved into housing. So within about 7 days, we got the first round of investments, and we'll continue to make those investments as the needs continue to emerge there as well. So that's a big aspect of what we're doing in addition to 211. And of course, all that can be found on our website at unitedwaygc.org. And we're happy to link to resources and information. The Chamber, you all have done a great job of sending out regular communications and updates that have been very useful to our team as well.
Great, thank you. That's incredible. $700,000 is great. Where are you? Is that coming in from corporation, business? Is that individuals or everyone?
Yeah, it's coming in from everyone. So, you know, when this all started, I called my colleagues at the Community Foundation, Hollingsworth Funds, Jolly Foundation, John I. Smith, Sims, and they were sort of our early investors in this, making up a little over $400,000 of that investment. And then, you know, we've been promoting it to the broader community. United Way of Greenville County is lucky enough to have over 25,000 individuals who contribute to us annually. And so we've had probably at this point a little over 250 individuals who've contributed to that fund, anywhere from $5 and up. And I've spent a good amount of time over the past couple of days calling people to thank them. I spoke with a gentleman yesterday who contributed $103. And as we were chatting, he said, you know, Megan, we're anticipating that we'll get a check from the federal government. And my wife and I sat down and decided to budget out what we were going to use that money for. And he's like, we need to use a lot of it to keep our family supported. We decided that we could afford to give $103 back to the community to support our neighbors. And that is just so heartwarming and touching to me. I spoke to a college student yesterday who gave $25, and he said, you know, I feel like I can give up a few beers since I have to stay at home, and I'm going to contribute to this fund instead. So, you know, it's just, it's our neighbors who are contributing to this as well. And that aspect of the fund has been over $60,000. It's been raised from individuals just like me and you who want to do their part in these unprecedented times.
That's great. Oh, that's wonderful. And all this information, we'll make sure we get that on our website, make sure we link it to you to link it to your website so they can go in and donate. How long is the program going to go on for?
I wish I could say it was going to wrap up soon, quite frankly, with everything, but it's just, we just don't know with COVID-19. But what I can tell you is that United Way is here for the long haul, right? So we're thinking right now about the immediate crisis that people may be in as it relates to unemployment, or, you know, having an empty pantry, or not having enough money to pay rent. We anticipate the economic impact of this, well past the health impact of this, will be really necessary for our community. So we're really taking it truly sometimes day by day, and as needs come up and emerge, we'll continue to partner with others to meet those needs both now and in the future. So who knows? You know, the optimist in me says hopefully sooner rather than later, but we'll be here as long as it takes.
That's wonderful to hear. And thank you for mentioning the school. That was the other thing that I knew United Way jumped in on, is with the school lunches and making sure the children that were getting the free and reduced, we're making sure they're getting fed throughout the remainder of the school year and hopefully beyond. So kudos and congratulations to you guys. Let us know from the Chamber of Commerce side how we can help. Just now posting if there's other ways that we can get involved in helping out. We'd be more than happy to. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I went online, I don't know if this is part of the United Way of Greenville County, but it's on your website, is the Hispanic Alliance. So you have, the communication barrier, one of the larger groups in Greer, in our kind of our weird city limits, but in our city limits, is the Hispanic population. And pushing that out and communicating has been a challenge for us, and we're working on it. We're trying to get that in diversity inclusion piece of our chamber to get it out there. How have you been working with the Hispanic population during COVID-19?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. We are deeply committed, as I know you are, to equity and access, and we have this incredible growing Hispanic community here in our region, as you know. And so the Hispanic Alliance, along with many other partners that are working within the Hispanic community, have been at the table to make sure that we are translating all of our materials, that we have resources that the Hispanic community can trust and rely upon for credible and relevant information to connect their families in. So we have been at the thick of that. I actually was on a call earlier today about how we could deepen some of that. 211 is a great example of having Spanish speaking team members who can help navigate the services and connect people in as well. So we're doing as much as we can there, David, and there's certainly a lot more to do around those efforts. And then of course, connecting with Greenville County Schools, right? That's a big part of that as well. As much as possible, we've had team members out understanding in real time what those needs are as people are picking up food to help communicate that back as well. So there's some work to do there, no doubt about it, but it's a hugely important area for us.
Excellent. No, that's so good. Really good to hear. Like I said, it's one of those things as a business community, we want to make sure we maintain that relationship. So, and as a resource, especially with 211, that's something that we can put out there as well. We talked about how people can give. We talked about going to the website and for the Community Relief Fund. And with that Community Relief Fund, how is it? Are the monies, are the funds available through grants, or the funds available just? How do you decide where those funds go?
Yeah, so we have a team of people both at United Way and then some of our community members who serve as part of the selection group for that. So far, we've done that as a closed application, meaning it's invite only, because we knew there was some immediate needs. So we reached out to some of our partners specifically in food and specifically in housing. We're evaluating that right now in terms of how we can expand that where there's need. Caroline, I'm looking at you as I'm saying this also, because I know you're playing a very key role at Greer Relief in terms of what's happening. So we want to make sure that we're proactively in touch with our partners. So should they need funding for above and beyond what you typically do as a result of COVID-19, we welcome those conversations, and as quickly as possible, we're getting that funding out the door. So I welcome that conversation with anyone, regardless of whether or not they're a currently funded partner of United Ways, right? So if there are organizations within Greer that might not be part of the United Way family, I would love to have that conversation with folks and connect them in with the team.
Wonderful, great. And part of United Way, especially gearing up, your campaign is like with September. Is it September through like November?
We start our pace setters actually in May, believe it or not. So
okay.
Innovating right now with all of our companies and what that means should this be continuing.
Sure. And so with that, there's always the campaigns. We see the commercials where they're out there, and people are wanting to volunteer, wanting to give. What is a way that someone can get out and volunteer, and what types of volunteer opportunities are there today?
Yeah, so it's such a strange time, because typically in a community crisis, volunteerism, it's sort of an easy way to plug in, right? But because we're social distancing and making sure that we're being very safe, volunteer opportunities have been much harder. So we've really been working to source different things that we can do in our community that allow people to be safe. So we're updating those opportunities daily on our website at unitedwaygc.org. So you can see all of those. We do have some opportunities with the schools as well, as those are popping up. So that's another way to get involved in a very sort of safe way, if you will, there. So that's really the best way to get the up to the minute volunteer opportunities on our website.
Great, well, wonderful. I am about done with the questions that I had prepared. If there's any questions that are out there, please feel free to either, I think you can raise your hand in this somehow, I don't know how yet, but or throw it on the chat. I'll be happy to ask it. Megan, I guess the last thing is there anything that you want to get out besides what we've said? We know there's concern for COVID-19. We know what it's doing to places like New York. We know what it's doing to, Florida, Louisiana, and the upstate. We're not sheltered. It's happening. It's going on. But is there any message out there that you'd like to get out that when we put this out to our membership and beyond, that is going to stick around for a week or 2 weeks or so as people play the recording?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably just echo what many folks are saying, which is, if possible, please stay home. I know that's not always possible, quite frankly, for a lot of our nonprofits, a lot of our frontline workers who are right in the thick of it. We certainly have staff members at United Way who are in the thick of it as well. But as much as possible for people to stay home, to follow those protocols that have been released by the CDC and the World Health Organization, to listen to DHEC as well with their information that they're sending out too. So that truly is my biggest piece of advice. I'm obviously not a medical expert, but I think we've all had enough of the COVID-19 sort of best practices shared with us. I will say as well, I've been in conversation with a lot of our companies and a lot of our folks who are really feeling the economic pain of this, right? And if people have employees as well within their businesses who may need services, 211 is a great resource there. We are still running our volunteer income tax assistance program, which, at one point we were at 50 locations throughout the upstate, and we are now down to one at the Buck Mickle Center at Greenville Tech. We still want to make sure that we're helping people get their taxes done, because in many cases that will help them qualify, or in all cases that will help them qualify to make sure that they get that check from the federal government. So for folks who've earned $60,000 or less, VITA is still a really terrific free option for them to get taxes done. So I've been sharing that as much as possible with our corporate partners too, who may have that need within their employee base. So we're here to help problem solve, and if we don't have the answers, we'll help figure that out too. But as much as possible, we want people to be safe. We actually today at United Way had a drive-through food pickup for folks in our parking lot, and we were employing all those best practices as well, with people wearing masks and people not getting out of their cars, and the safety mechanisms there, because people need to eat, right? And they can't afford it in some cases right now. So just be safe and be smart about it.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Again, we will be able to help share anything from the Chamber of Commerce side, and we have been working closely with Greenville Chamber as well as Spartanburg Chamber, Anderson, and all the other local chambers around, just to make sure that our messages are strong. So anytime you need to share, feel free to reach out to us. But again, thank you so much for taking time today.
Yeah, my pleasure, David. And same, if there's anything that you want me to be sure to share with our community on our website or whatever that looks like as well, or the team at United Way, more than happy to do that. So just let me know.
Great. Well, thank you again.
My pleasure. Take care, everybody.